Hello, I am Joe.
And I am Jack.
And today we are going to talk about our all-time best winter gear from our time here at BikeRadar.
As you all know, if you're living in the Northern Hemisphere, we are in the depths of winter at the minute. And we thought it'd be fun and interesting for you, our delightful viewers, to hear about what we think are our all-time favourite bits of winter riding gear.
So that is what this video is all about. We've each picked 4 items, some of them old, some of them new, some of them very cheap, some of them deliriously expensive. And we're going to tell you why we think they're great.
But before we go on, an editorial disclaimer. While we do some sponsored content on BikeRadar.com, you will always know about it because it will say in the video description and we have to tell YouTube when it is sponsored.
But like all of our reviews on BikeRadar, this video is 100% editorial. That means all of the kit we've included in this list we've either bought ourselves or has been sent in for an independent review by a brand.
So this means that you know that our choices are totally down to the performance of the products, which we think are amazing.
And before we get on with the show, remember, if you want to see more content like this, more tucked in t-shirts, more neck beards, don't forget to like, subscribe and click that little bell icon. So every time we upload a video, you get a notification. Yeah! So in no particular order, we're going to start with Jack's first pick.
So this is something I actually talked about earlier than this year. Insulated gilets, and in particular, this Rafa Breve gilet is one of my top picks for winter riding. Compared to a jacket, a gilet gives you that opportunity to really warm your core without overheating, which, as Joe will attest, is something I suffer from constantly. And having a gilet just lets you dump a ton of heat really quickly. This one in particular is lined with Polartec Alpha insulation, and it's really good at just kind of keeping a nice warm pocket of air around you, but it's also got a nice windproof face fabric to stop that kind of buffeting cold wind. But more importantly, it has got those big kind of mesh panels on the side, not going to overheat in it, and as a layering solution, it is definitely one of my top picks.
Jack has worn it nearly every day for about 3 years now, and it now is a kind of puke green.
Puke green, snot green, but I love it all the same. Right.
Now onto my first pick. If you're riding and commuting in winter, you are going to need a really good front light. A little bit of a backstory about my Lupine Wilma. I bought it 6 years ago when I very first started at BikeRadar for all the commuting I was going to be doing. At the time it cost me £280 and that was with a discount. I was really sweating that cost. £280 on a light at the time seemed absolutely crazy. Well, 6 years later and after untold hours of winter commuting and winter training, I absolutely love that light. It has never put a foot wrong and it's one of the best pieces of cycling equipment I've ever bought. The Wilma I've got from 2014 has a max lumens of 2,400. The latest Wilma goes up to 3,200, which is even brighter. And for all the riding I do, both on and off-road, 2,400 is more than enough. It has been 100% reliable. In 6 years, it has never gone wrong, it has never shorted out, the battery has never done anything funny, and when you're out on long winter rides in the middle of the countryside in the pitch black on your own, that is exactly what you need. Finally, I really like the fact that it is a modular style of light, and that means you can separate the battery from the light. This means you can use the different batteries that Lupine offer, whether that's a really big one for kind of long rides or a really small one for maybe racing where you save a bit of weight. And it also makes it really quick to get on and off a bike and on and off lots of different styles of bike. It's worth mentioning that Lupine do a light called the Alpha, which has 7,200 lumens. And I think it's one of the brightest lights in the world. It also costs nearly £1,000. But for me, my 6 years old Wilma is absolutely amazing and I hope to be using it for many years to come. On to Jack's second pick.
I am a Mudguard fetishist. Honestly, for riding road bikes in the UK, particularly if you're riding them year round, I do not think a bike is complete without Mudguards. And if I had to pick my absolute top pick of all the Mudguards on the market, Velo Orange's various range of alloy Mudguards comes out on top. They're available in a bunch of different sizes, a bunch of different widths, colours, finishes, the whole lot. And you can pretty much match them to any bike. But for me, more importantly, they are so hard wearing. SKS make genuinely great mudguards and they last a really long time. They're quite easy to fit, but for that little bit extra with a full alloy construction, I really think the Velo Orange mudguards are well worth the investment. I've never had one go wrong. They've maybe needed a bit of adjustment in the first couple of weeks when I first fitted them, but beyond that, they are fit and forget.
Yeah, and you've had a couple of pairs, haven't you?
Yeah, I've got a pair on my current All-City Mr. Pink long-term test bike, and I also had them on a previous Velo Orange bike itself, actually, a Pass Hunter. So yeah, a total top pick for me. I also think as well, and this is more aesthetic rather than anything else, but I think the finish of the mudguards and the kind of high quality finish of them really matches a bike well, rather than detracts from the look, which some people think mudguards do. But honestly, if you're riding in the winter, there's nothing better from a morale perspective as well, and not having to clean your bike as much, which I hate doing, than having mudguards, because, you know, they keep you dry and that's going to keep you warm.
My pick number 2 is another very old one. It's my Mavic Inferno Extreme gloves. Now, I found these in a free box at the BikeRadar office way back in the winter of 2015. They're bright red and they were sitting in the bottom of the box looking sorry for themselves. No one had picked them out, so I immediately grabbed them, put them on. Size XL, I've got quite big hands, they fitted beautifully. Since then, they have done many winters. I get really cold hands, they're incredibly thick and they keep my hands really warm.
Yeah, I've been at BikeRadar for 3.5 years now, and I've ridden many miles with Joe in the winter, and Big Reds have been with us in nearly every ride.
Because they're XLs, I can also fit an underglove underneath them when it's really cold and we do really early morning rides. That's handy because, again, I really suffer with the cold with my hands. My feet aren't too bad. I also like the fact that the padding on the palm is fairly thin. I'm not a big fan of gloves where they have the big gel padding because I find it gives you a kind of loose feeling on the bars, but those ones, fairly thin padding, and it gives you a nice kind of connected, solid feeling. I also feel quite sorry for my Mavic gloves because I get a very snotty nose during the winter, and probably 50% of my rides are spent wiping my nose with my Mavic gloves. So they get quite stiff and snotty before they get a wash, so they get a bit gross. But again, they've served me really well for the last 3 or 4 years, and I hope they keep going for a lot longer.
I'll be very sad when the day comes when you have to retire those biohazard gloves. On a similarly grotty note, we have my Grip Grab neoprene overshoes. I got these as a review sample a couple of years ago, and they are by far the best overshoes I've ever used, hands down. Why? Well, they're incredibly simple compared to most overshoes. There is no zip up the back, there's no fussy fastenings on the bottom, and the kind of neoprene thick material they're made of is super hard wearing. Now, getting them on is a bit of a fiddle. You do need to pull them onto your legs before you put your shoes on, but because there is no zip, and if you've used overshoes before, you probably know that's exactly where they go, they've lasted incredibly well. I mean, these look terrible, but they perform just as well as they did the day I got them.
And they're a nice bright colour, so
you can be seen in winter, which is incredibly important.
And in a testament to how tough they are, if you look at the bottom of most of Jack's shoes, they get absolutely wrecked, to the point where Shimano get angry with him and send him some cleats. So the fact that these overshoes have held up for so long is a real testament to how durable they really are.
Yeah, I am not good to footwear. Like, I use road shoes for gravel riding. I just prefer the way it feels, and you know, these have really stood up. Because they're thick as well, they're pretty much waterproof. You might get a bit of seepage on a long day, but you know, nothing that's going to make you cold. But they are also a little bit insulating. So yeah, all around, the best overshoes I've ever got, and I will never ever buy anything else again.
Just like my Mavic gloves, I'm a fan of nice warm clothing in the winter, and these Sportful Total Comfort bib tights have been my go-to for around 5 years. The particular model I've been using have been discontinued for quite a while, but you can still buy the Total Comfort bib tight in a slightly updated style. They have nice wide comfy straps, as everyone knows now, a nice wide strap on your bibs makes the riding experience that much better. I also like the fact that they have quite a high waist. That means your kind of belly, stomach area is kept quite warm on those really freezing rides.
Keep that little tummy of yours in, Joe.
Although it does mean that if you stop for a nature break, it is a bit of a struggle. You may have guessed from the name of the tights, they are incredibly comfortable as well. The pad is really thick on them. I think it's 17 millimeters thick, which is much thicker than the kind of standard chamois pad you get on normal bib tights. You do have to be aware though, because that pad is so thick, you may have to adjust the saddle height on your bike. So when I wear those tights, I often have to adjust the saddle height a bit from my kind of summer bib shorts. Finally, I have big flipper-like feet which sit on the end of very skinny, stick-like ankles. Jack says my legs look like hockey sticks. So having bib tights that I can unzip at the ankles with cam lock zips means they're much easier to get on. I find with the bib tights that don't have those zippers, they can be really fiddly to get on. When you're getting up bleary-eyed in the morning for that morning ride or the morning commute, just being able to slip your bib tights on is much more convenient.
And now for the very, very cheapest item on our list, and this one is a little bit kinky. Unlike Joe, I actually don't get too many issues with cold hands. It's actually my feet that tend to suffer. And trying to find a solution and looking to other sports for inspiration, I went on this really good article on UK Climbing a couple of years ago by Andy Kirkpatrick on basically keeping warm in winter climbing. And one of his tips, and one that I tried, was putting plastic freezer bags right against your skin within your socks. This is as bad as it sounds. It feels horrible for the first few minutes. But essentially what you're doing with that plastic bag is creating a vapor barrier. When your feet get sweaty, or more likely in winter when they get wet from the road, essentially all the water or moisture in there does is acts as a kind of thing to transport heat from your feet and into the socks. And by putting that plastic bag there, you create a vapor barrier. And the improvement it makes to warmth in your feet is crazy how much of a difference it makes. You know, freezer bags are what, 100 for a couple quid? You can reuse them constantly as well if you're not too grossed out by the concept. But honestly, if you suffer from cold feet in winter, or if you know you're gonna go do a really, really wet ride, like I cannot recommend you try this enough. It makes such a difference, and it is far cheaper than investing in the likes of waterproof socks or winter boots.
From something incredibly cheap, we now head to the most expensive item on our list, and that's Gore's Shake Dry Jacket. Now Jack has used this a bit more than me, but I've used it as well. What do you think of it?
Honestly, if you're looking for a waterproof which is totally impervious, I cannot recommend any of the Gore Shake Dry jackets out there enough. Shake Dry essentially reverses the normal arrangement of a waterproof or Gore-Tex fabric, so the actual breathable layer, the kind of rubbery layer, is on the outside. So you don't have to deal with any durable, water-resistant layers, and the jacket just beads and you can shake water straight off of it. They are also much more breathable than a lot of other options in the market. I think that's also just because they're so thin. But really, if you're looking for something totally impervious, they are the top choice, but they do not come cheap.
No, they are not cheap. They are very light though, they pack really easy into the back of a gilet, so if you're going out on one of those days where you're not sure what the conditions are going to be like, it's very easy to just kind of stuff it into your back pocket rather than taking a kind of big, thick, heavy jacket with arm zips and stuff like that.
I've got a Rafa one, you've got a regular Gore one, there's ones from Castelli. They're all largely the same. Gore actually licenses the technology, so they have to kind of fit really specific criteria. So you're not going to be disappointed with any of them. But really, if you are after that kind of do-it-all winter jacket, it is a bit delicate, we'll say that. But if you're after the absolute best, these come highly recommended.
But as we've already mentioned, they are incredibly expensive. Your Rafa one?
It's 220 quid, which is a lot of money for something that feels a little bit like the plastic bags I just mentioned.
So there are our choices. Let us know what you think in the comments, and let us know about your all-time favourite winter kit. We'd really like to hear about it.
And as always, do not forget to like, subscribe, and click that little darling bell button, so every time we upload a video, you will get a notification.
Goodbye!